Final Audio is a boutique Japanese headphone manufacturer based in Kawasaki, Japan. They're well known for the somewhat strange and wacky earphone designs, which in the past have more resembled artisanal jewellery rather than pieces of audio equipment. Within their lineup, the E-series is perhaps the most straightforward to understand. It's simple, clean and understated with a simple goal in mind, to provide an earphone which avoids the masking effect, making sure every frequency sounds in proportion to the rest of the frequency spectrum. Now, this is easier said than done, and I think Final have taken a unique and somewhat different approach from most Japanese audio manufacturers. I finally had the chance to listen to the E3000, and despite some reservations, I've actually been quite pleasantly surprised. So have Final Audio designed an earphone that avoids the masking effect? Well, let's jump right in the review and find out. In terms of its design, the E3000 is built from a really nice stainless steel housing, which honestly feels and looks more expensive than it should. It puts a lot of other earphones in its price category to shame, with its solid machine metal housings polished to a mirror-like finish. Just take care to avoid rough handling, as they do scratch quite easily. The cable, on the other hand, is a bit of a disappointment. It's thin, janky, and while it doesn't retain too much memory, it just doesn't feel all that solid. I wish it was replaceable because I quite like the sound of this earphone, which I'll get into in a bit. Final also includes quite a few set of ear tips, which are their own proprietary design, similar to JVC's spin fits. Unlike most tips, these can swivel around to better adjust to the shape of your individual ear canal. I find that they fit mine very well, and I've even tried the tips on other earphones, which seem to also make them fit better than their own stock tips. Just note that if you want a tip roll on the E3000, I found that some ear tips are too airtight and make the E3000 sound bloated and compressed. So for the best sound quality, I would stick with the stock ear tips that they come with. Now onto my favourite part about these earphones, which is the sound quality. To me, the E3000 is quite different from a lot of other Japanese earphones in that it pursues a gentle, warm and lush sound signature. This means that you get a good mid-bass presence with some sub-bass, a relatively recessed but still legible mid-range, and a coherent but not overly done treble section. What I hear with the E3000 is a warm earphone with a special characteristic. It has a sense of roominess, size and scale that I find utterly intoxicating in certain scenarios. For instance, rock music is given an extra thump in the mid-bass, but to my ears at least, it doesn't become overly boomy. While it's not the fastest, tightest or most accurate bass in the world, I actually quite enjoy it for what it is. It sounds more like speakers in a room rather than a sterile listening instrument. The mid-range follows the smooth tonality, but there is definitely a recession in that range. Vocals sit further in the background, but thankfully the treble stays in proportion to the mids, so there isn't a massive dip which would make vocals sound even further in the background and sound almost unintelligible, as I've heard on some other earphones. There is a gentle sparkle to vocals which helps them retain legibility, but they won't stand out to you front and center. What this earphone seems to accomplish is not accuracy, but space. The mid-bass emphasis, combined with the recessed mid-range and proportional but not emphasized highs, gives the E3000 a dynamic and yet smooth sound. Now, I tend to listen to music at lower volumes, and this makes the E3000 sound relatively balanced, if not a bit warm and smooth to my ears. However, bumping up the volume will quickly draw emphasis to the sheer amount of bass that the E3000 packs in. Now, this will help in situations where bass tends to be masked, such as in a train or a plane, but for general listening, I can see why the E3000 sounds boomy for people who listen to higher volumes. In this regard, the Etymotic ER2XR might fare better in that its bass remains tight and controlled even as you bump up the volume. So in conclusion, where do I stand with the E3000? I should be straightforward in saying that this earphone will sound more pleasing for casual rather than critical listeners. It's a bit too warm, smooth and euphoric to be called neutral, and the bass can get out of hand, especially at higher listening volumes. But as an overall package, taking into account the gorgeous housings and the inoffensive and still sort of charming sound, I think the E3000 shouldn't be overlooked too easily just because it has a bit more bass than average. I hope you enjoyed this review. It's the first time I've tried editing and doing a voiceover. If you found this helpful, it would help me a lot if you liked the video and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, as I plan to upload more reviews in the future. If you have any feedback, please let me know in the comments. I try to reply to them whenever I get the chance. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Cheers.